This video ends up going so long that we're going to split it into two parts. The first part's going to cover the basic safety and operation of the M9 pistol and the M17 pistol, as well as range safety. If you want to skip that part, go to the second part and we'll go over the firing positions and the actual course of fire for the alternate C qualification. Now for the safety of my camera person, I'm going to use the blue gun for this segment, but we're going to talk about the standing position, which is the first position that you fire when you qualify with the M9 or M17 pistol. Standing means what it says, standing, so I could stand any way I want to, and that's perfectly legal as far as the qualification. However, you probably want to get in some type of fighting stance, because when you fire a weapon, you're in a fight. So maybe I want to have my feet offset, that way I can move this way, I can move this way, or I can duck and come back down. I'm in a fight. Okay, so the first course of fire is from the standing position. You'll be given one 7-round magazine. The weapon will be on safe when you begin, and on the command of lock and load one 7-round magazine, you'll load a 7-round magazine, release the slide, and then on the command of fire or watch your lane, you'll begin to engage the target 7 times. Lock and load one 7-round magazine. Watch your lane. Alright, so we had some pretty mediocre results here. One thing I use that works well with these targets is a silver Sharpie so that the metal shows up on the black background. So we had 3 hits and 4 misses. This is a pretty common mistake, so as the shooter is, I can tell you exactly what's going on here. So as the shooter's pulling the trigger on the weapon, which is clear and unsafe, what happens is you pull the trigger, your hand starts to kind of rotate that way. So like I said, the whole trick is to hold the weapon still and not move the sights until the weapon goes off. Now for the next position, it's called the kneeling position. And there's a couple of ways to do that, but first I want to talk about the fact that you're going to have to do a magazine change. So I have here on my belt a magazine holder, and I'll show you the way that I change the magazines. There's a lot of different ways to do it. None of them is correct or incorrect per se. So what's going to happen is you're going to shoot bang, 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 and then the weapon's going to run empty and the slide's going to lock to the rear. At that point, you have to press the magazine release. Now the way I do it is I come up with my other hand and I press the button. Some people will sort of reach around with their thumb, especially if they have big hands, and they can just drop it out. However, I'm just going to reach up. Magazine falls free. I'm going to take my spare magazine. I have it oriented to the rear. A lot of people don't do that. The way I figure ergonomically, I'm coming around, and it's just like I'm putting my hands together. I can do that with my eyes closed. Once the magazine's seated, if you want to, you can pull down on it to make sure it's properly seated. You go ahead and release the slide. Again, you could do it with your thumb, or you could come up with your spare hand and use your left thumb or your non-dominant thumb. Notice the weapon is on fire. Since I'm in the middle of firing, there's no reason to put it on safe. However, if I was to stop firing for any reason, I would go ahead and put it on safe, and then I would not be able to fire the weapon, and I could reholster it. One thing about this weapon that's kind of tricky is the safety and the slide release are right next to each other. That might not exactly be a desirable feature, because you may actually take the safety off when you're intending to take the slide release off, and vice versa. Okay, now we're going to use the blue gun again to talk about the kneeling position. There's a lot of different techniques. Perhaps the preferred one is like this. I'm going to kneel, and I'm going to put my knee down. Notice how my legs are sort of at an angle, maybe not quite perpendicular. I can even settle back on my heel. I'm going to place the fatty part of my upper arm against my knee, because it's not good to have bone against bone, it's better to have muscle against bone. And then I can just hold it like this. But this position requires a lot of flexibility, And a lot of the folks qualifying with the M9 pistol, like it could be a Department of Defense contractor that maybe doesn't have that good knee flexibility, or he's got bad knees. So there's a lot of other options. One thing that I like is you can put 2 knees down. The advantage of this position to me is that you're not really changing the dynamics of your pistol. I'm holding my pistol the exact same way, my body's angled the exact same way that I would for standing position. And in fact, I shoot a little bit better from this position, even though theoretically you'd have more stability from having your elbow supported by your knee. The other thing I've seen is if people don't have the flexibility to settle back like that, then they might just get up on both knees. This is not a particularly stable position, but it's just as stable as standing, really. Okay, for this next course of fire, we're going to fire from the kneeling position. We're going to have a 6-round magazine and a 7-round magazine. Why so few, you might ask? Because this course of fire was designed around the M1911A1 45 pistol that only held 7 rounds. I almost missed one. Okay, the next position is crouching. So the idea here is that you just want to have some bend in your knees. I've never seen this graded too harshly. A lot of times you'll see people start out like this, and as they kind of get into shooting, they might raise up a little bit. Shouldn't be an issue, just have some flex in your knees. So for the next course of fire, you're going to load 2 5-round magazines. So go ahead and stick one of those in your pocket. And then what you're going to do is, on the command of lock and load 1 5-round magazine, you will lock and load 1 5-round magazine. On the command of fire, you will fire. And then you will do the magazine change on your own. Shooter, lock and load 1 5-round magazine. Watch your lane. All right, much better results this time. Looks like that tip about the trigger really worked. Now let me talk about a little cheat here. You got some numbers here, and there's something called aim small, miss small. So instead of firing at the entire silhouette, a lot of times I'll just fire at the number 5. Now let's say I fired at the number 5 and all my rounds ended up over here and some of them went off to the right. There's nothing to say I couldn't fire at the number 3 if I know that my targets are going off to the left. All right, the next position is the prone position. Now it rained last night, so I'm gonna get a little bit wet, but there's a couple of different prone positions that I'll show you. Perhaps the most stable is I would get into it like this. I lay my wrist on the ground and then I just roll over and my entire arm is supported by the ground. Now you have to have a high enough clearance that you can actually see the target when you're that low. So that's probably the preferred position because it's the most stable, and if somebody's shooting back at you, you're the smallest target. Another position, if you can't get that low, is simply just to place your elbows on the ground and hold the pistol up a little bit. Kind of fire like you normally would. You might want to practice this because a lot of times your point of aim might shift as you change positions. And then finally, there's a position that's sometimes used, very rarely on the range, but if you're in a firefight and you're shooting from behind a car and you want to shoot under the car, people lay on their side like this. So this is another prone position that would be allowed for the fourth course of fire. One more thing you might be asked to do, sometimes they skip it and sometimes they don't, is called CBRN Fire, for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. Instead of wearing the whole get-up, we're just going to wear the protective mask. This is the M50 Joint Service General Purpose Mask, and then the gloves. So the tricky thing is that you have to wear these glove liners and then these butyl rubber gloves on top of them. Other than that, it's all the same. You just shoot from the standing or position or the crouching position, and the mask is the only thing that's different, but you don't have to change your sight picture or anything like that. You might well ask, which pistol is better, the M9 or the M17? If your agency or your unit still has the M9, you might feel like, yeah, you've got a substandard piece of equipment, and why don't you have the new M17 pistol? Well, off camera, I shot the entire qualification with both weapons myself, and ended up getting 40 out of 40 on both of them, so they were both quite capable of a perfect score. And I even almost missed in the exact same place with both weapons. So, bottom line is, the M9 pistol, even though it's been around since 1985, it accurately and reliably launches a 9mm bullet, just like a M17 accurately and reliably launches a 9mm bullet. So they're both completely capable. The really only clear advantage I see in the M17 is the fact that it comes with the tritium glow-in-the-dark sights, and the fact that it's ready to accept a light on its rail. While we're waiting for it to get dark for the night fire, let me read you the standards. In order to qualify, you only have to hit the target 24 out of 40 times, and that's for the first 4 tables. It doesn't count the CBRN Fire or the night fire. Score of 24 to 28 makes you a marksman, 29 to 35 makes you a sharpshooter, and 36 to 40 makes you an expert. Okay, I just read the manual that governs the alternate C qualification, and all it says is that you have to fire 5 rounds at the target under night conditions, 1 magazine. So we're going to go ahead and do that from a crouching position. Now for the M17 pistol, I don't know if you're allowed to use your light at night or not, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll go ahead and activate it. Just to see how bright it is. And this is a very easy task because the target's illuminated and my sights are illuminated. Okay, this is the end of the video. We had a nice long day on the range. We covered safety, we covered the basic operation of the M9 pistol and the M17 pistol, and then we walked you through the qualification process and all the firing positions. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck when you go to the range to qualify with the M9 or M17 pistol.